Namaskar. About 10 days ago, YouTube and Google, my favorite technology company, acknowledged my existence. I'm very pleased to share with you. And they did so by writing me a note telling me that one of my old videos, which I had made 5 to 6 months ago on Omicron, has been taken down. So let me take you through the exact words. They say that this is a strike warning and that your content was removed due to a violation of our community guidelines. Now, what are the guidelines? The guidelines, of course, include instances of nudity or sexual content, violent or graphic content. I mean, that can't be. I'm not with this channel. We keep our clothes on here. What they are referring to mainly is something called medical misinformation. And the policy says YouTube doesn't allow content about COVID 19 that poses a serious risk of egregious harm. I looked up the word egregious. It says the meaning is conspicuously bad or offensive. Now, I'm a fan of Google. So my first response always is they must be right, right? Because they are Google. I mean, it's YouTube, it's big. And I'm a fan. I've been a long time fan of Google and all its apps. So I went back to my video. I looked at it very, very, very keenly. And I showed it to some friends. And I do not see anything anywhere which causes serious risk of egregious harm. On the contrary, that particular video was done within 48 hours of Omicron being detected in South Africa. And because the mainstream media was getting hysterical, because the mainstream media was, making some doomsday, scenarios, I decided to place the relevant facts from the relevant authentic sources in that video. And there are only two people I quoted there. One, the Dr. Angelique Coetzee from South Africa, who actually detected this variant, this new mutant, and two, the WHO. So I don't know how I could have got this wrong unless the doctor herself said some words which they do not like, the medical authorities, and because I quoted her, maybe it's been removed. I have no idea because, of course, YouTube is so big. I'm such a small fish. They do not talk to me. There was a form, and do you want to appeal? Yes, no, yes. So I was given a field in which I wrote 4 sentences, and it was the experience was more like, if you know who Franz Kafka is, it's like a Kafka's courtroom scene, where technology bureaucracy is so powerful, and you feel that you're so small and tiny and insignificant, and you cannot make a difference even if you were right. One gets that feeling. Anyway, they promptly rejected that appeal. No reasons given. And I would have loved YouTube to tell me, look, these are the words that's wrong. These are the sentences which I object to. I would have changed them. I would have changed them and put it in a way more palatable and in a way which causes less egregious harm. But to explore this further, what do they mean by community guidelines? And here it becomes clear. YouTube says it doesn't allow content that contradicts local health authorities or content that contradicts the World Health Organization's medical information about COVID-19. Therefore, medical misinformation does not mean that something is false. It does not mean that something is being questioned is wrong. It does not mean that the findings of some research are wrong. It means that this is not the official position of the government and the government's authorities, the medical bureaucracy, the institutions like the CDC, the FDA, the WHO, etc., etc. So medical misinformation means you're not obedient, you're not subservient to the government. But this is the whole point here, that the very existence of independent researchers, of independent scientists, of independent journalists, of independent institutions is to balance out the power of the government and the government institutions. That is their role in society. A journalist ought to perform this role looking at the facts, looking at various sources of information, verifying those sources of information, asking the right questions, and also critiquing some bad decisions. That's what I thought I was doing, which I've done in other videos. Let me tell you, YouTube has not taken down any of those videos where I was actually being critical and on the basis of data asking pertinent questions. And YouTube has kept them there. So this is not an anti-YouTube video I'm doing. This is for all of us to understand what this is going on in the name of medical misinformation, especially in the last 2 years when it has got excessive. And I'm not talking about YouTube alone. I'm talking about all the technology platforms, be it Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or any other big platform which is there for us to share our views with one another. There has been some excessive censorship of the kind that you only see in authoritarian dictatorships, like Saudi Arabia, places like that. And I do know that many facts and factual statements, which later turned out to be absolutely universally known facts, were labeled misinformation and taken down over the 18-month period initially. And apparently it's still being taken down, like with my experience. So I compiled a small list. Over the next 5 minutes, let me tell you all the important facts which were labeled misinformation and taken down by big tech during the corona pandemic. Number one, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID. If you get vaccinated, you can still spread COVID. Now this, which is such a well-known fact now, all of you are surely aware of it. Many of you have probably got vaccinated and still got the disease and also spread it to others. We now know this as a fact. But do you know that this fact, in the name of misinformation, was taken down by tech companies for a long period of time? Just to tell you the latest news, about 3 days ago at the European Parliament hearing where they summoned Pfizer officials, the CEO refused to come, but some other representative was there. And one senator, Dr. Robert Roos, if I'm not mistaken, an MP, a Dutch MP of European Parliament, he asked a very specific question. Had Pfizer ever tested its vaccine for spreading it from one person to another? And they replied that no, we have not done any research whatsoever of the effect of our vaccine in being able to stop the spread. Now, European members of parliament are very agitated. They were shocked by this revelation, which was suspected all along. And why? Because the pharma companies, the governments of the world, the medical bureaucrats, the senior physicians, sorry to say, even the senior physicians were involved in this cover-up. They all said, take the vaccine so that you will not spread it to others. They said, even if you are strong, you're healthy, doesn't matter. You're taking it for society. You're taking it for your parents. You're taking it for your neighbors, implying that once you took the vaccine, you will not spread it. Completely false. Number two, to question the efficacy of vaccines, that their efficacy wanes off quickly. I myself in this channel have done videos, some of you may have seen them, where we used data from proper medical research done, if I'm not mistaken, from Israel, which had 2 brilliant studies, from the US, which had the Cleveland study, if I'm not mistaken. If I recall right, from the Israel study, within 3 months of taking the vaccine, the efficacy fell to 75%. Within 4 months, it fell to 67%. Within 5 months, it fell to 44%. And by 6 months, the efficacy of the vaccine was down to 16%. And this fact, if questioned, if stated like this, that the vaccine efficacy is dropping fast, people who said it, who questioned it, could be taken down and were taken down from many technology platforms. Fact number 3, to question COVID deaths and hospitalization numbers. If you presented any facts and based on those facts, you stated that the COVID deaths and hospitalization numbers being given are not true, you could be taken down. your content could be deleted from the technology platforms. Now, this is a raging issue because the errors that have happened here, as we explained in a video that we did in this channel, the errors were on both sides. In some places, more deaths than actually happened were being shown. And in some places, less deaths were being shown. Now, much later, a lot more facts came out. And to the extent that the CDC in the US itself officially reduced its death figures. Yes, they did. They did so quietly, so I'm not sure many of you are aware. I will give you the exact figure. They retracted more than 72,000 COVID deaths from its COVID death count, with not much explanation, because what could they say? Because they did admit to one thing, that a lot of deaths with COVID were recorded as off COVID, and that is wrong. How did the coronavirus emanate? Where did it come from? What is the role of the Wuhan lab? Asking any of these questions, and in particular to state that it is very much possible that this virus was man-made in a lab, could get your content thrown away from technology platforms. And the facts are many. It is so complex, but it is so openly known now. We made a video on that in this channel. We called it Organized Misinformation by the Government. And now to fact number 5, a very important one according to me, because I was really wanting that this part of the scientific debate and discussion should reach out to everybody. And I did a lot of videos on this, and this subject is natural immunity. At one time, even to state that natural immunity is good and desirable, or that it is stronger and more long-lasting and healthier for all of us, if you even said that, you could be taken down from technology platforms on the grounds of scientific misinformation. Somewhere, I think the authorities, the governments, the medical authorities, pharma companies, of course, have their vested interest, but altogether, they forgot about the goal. What is our goal? That everyone should have immunity. Instead of that, they changed it and advertised that everyone should be vaccinated. That became the stated goal, instead of everyone should have immunity. And nature was finding a way to make 70 or 80% of us naturally immune in a very nice, healthy way. As the vaccines began to be rolled out and more people began to be given the vaccines, there came a time when there was a feedback. There is a vaccine adverse effects feedback mechanism in various countries. And unfortunately, it is not there in various other countries like India. But as more and more adverse reactions began to be reported, naturally questions were raised. And guess what? Again, these factual inquiries based on factual episodes, events of some adverse reaction began to be taken down by the tech companies in the name of medical misinformation. More facts came out later supporting the earlier facts and line of inquiry. The CDC in the USA itself admitted in a study that there is a link of the vaccine to myocarditis in younger people. And yet, strangely, they advocated giving this vaccine to children. We'll come to that point later. But the latest news, all this has a bearing even today. This is not just history, what I'm saying. Has a bearing even today because just a few days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, the state of Florida in the US brought out an official recommendation. It said that we recommend against mRNA vaccines for males between 18 and 39 years of age. And they have cited the reason of the increasing cases which are coming to light of myocarditis in the young, and which has reached a level which is unacceptable. Another interesting fact here is that the person, the doctor, the researcher who actually invented mRNA technology, his name is Dr. Robert Malone. He himself was banned from Twitter. Some of his videos were taken down from YouTube because he drew our attention, even at that time, at the beginning, to the dangers of the mRNA vaccine. And they told the guy who invented mRNA vaccine that you're wrong, you are propagating science misinformation. Point number 7, or should I say fact number 7, which was again discouraged, and content linked to it taken down from tech platforms was about vaccines for children. Now, this is such a sensitive subject. These are vaccines which have been brought out under emergency approval in such a hurry. No one, even the manufacturers, know the long-term effects of it. And to give it to children who are the most resilient, with the highest intensity of natural immunity in them, who are the least affected during this corona crisis, to give it to the children who have another 60, 70, 80 years to live, I feel that is a crime that we have committed. Again, another fact, which is now known as fact because many countries are saying don't give the vaccine to children, but which at one time was taken down as medical misinformation. I would like to add one interesting study here by the CDC, because they are the medical authorities which Google goes by. And the CDC said that there are lesser chances of children dying from COVID-19 than from a drowning accident. And yet they're giving, advocating and pushing, thrusting the vaccine on children. Strange. Point number 8. I don't know if you've heard of this drug called Ivermectin, but even the sound of it from a distance makes technology companies, very, very nervous, and they take down your content. So I'm not going to go beyond stating the name Ivermectin, and just sharing this fact that there have been a lot of studies done on Ivermectin, and a lot of studies claim that it has very good effects as a curative for people who had COVID-19, and also as a preventive, as a prophylactic for people, especially for those it was tested on people who are working close to COVID-19 patients, like nurses, doctors, and other people at home who had a COVID patient. A lot of these studies were compiled together in a meta-study, and it was done by Dr. Tess Lawrie of the UK. She did a remarkable job. And the way the pharma companies, the medical authorities, and the governments went after her and after all these study reports, trying to rubbish them, even though they were, proper research done by proper scientists. That is why I put that in this list, because I cannot yet state factually that Ivermectin is a definite curative. That they have to say. Incidentally, and we mentioned this in one of our videos in this channel, Ivermectin is a drug made by the very same one of these big multinational pharma companies who themselves are against its use. Why? Because now the patent period is over. It's available for pennies or cents or rupees or whatever we can say. It's a very cheap drug. And being a cheap drug, if it is efficacious, then actually the WHO should be rapidly doing studies. The Indian government, the American government, the UK government should actually by now 20 months, they should have done 10 studies. And if they found it efficacious, they should have rolled out that drug because it's cheap and affordable by all. But somewhere the vaccine obsession is there, and there's a lot more money to be made in vaccines. The last point in my list, fact number 9, to question the use of masks or the strategical use of lockdowns as a response to the pandemic. Now, these are very sensitive areas. All of us have opinions about it. But why I put this is that the medical authorities, the government, and the tech platforms who copy whatever is the official version, they actually denied science by stifling a discussion about this. Similarly, about lockdown as a strategy, there are a lot of epidemiologists, trained, talented, famous, expert epidemiologists who don't agree with this stand taken by these epidemiologists who are advising the government. But not to allow one side to have its say in the name of medical misinformation. That was a little tragic, and that did happen. So I put this down as number 9, the use of masks and the use of lockdowns as a strategy. This is also a factual line of inquiry, which was stifled and not allowed to happen. So these are the 9 points which I could list. Maybe there are more where we went wrong. When I say we, I'm including all of us. The governments, the medical administrators, the critics like us, the journalists, the high-tech companies. After all, as humanity, we are one. And if we all can learn a lesson from this, well and good. But if we use this only as a precedent that, look, this was done during COVID, so therefore we can do it again. We can silence anyone anytime through tech platform. If that message goes out, then that will be very, very unfortunate. There is a point to be said about the community guidelines itself. I think the tech platforms cannot be blamed altogether because in a way they are also having their arms twisted by the governments. They depend on the governments for many things, and they are also regularly hauled up by the governments and told to answer this or that. And the governments can always harass corporations. And as far as Google is concerned, I am a fan of Google, as I've said twice or thrice already in this video, and it's truly so. And ever since those days, 25 years ago, when I I applied for and got my first Gmail email address, and then the Google search itself, which was so simple, so elegant, and till today the best. And the way they brought out other things, YouTube, I mean, they bought it from someone, but they've developed it so well. And Google Maps, I mean, there are n number of things. And I primarily like Google for that old memory when I was young and when Google came into my life, because Google used the line, "We are not evil." This was their corporate line. And that appealed to me, as it must have appealed to a lot of people, because at that time we really felt that the big monopolist IT company of those days was actually evil. And we thought Google was, kind of pointing a finger at that direction and saying, look, we won't be like that. Even if we grow big, which they have now, they are bigger than the other chap. But I remember this line they used, "We are not evil." And with Google, it's a difficult relationship now because, as I mentioned, a small creator like me is also partner of YouTube and Google now. And Google, even though it's located in America, the headquarters, it is an American company. Its customers are all over the world. All 7 billion plus people on this planet are its customers. So who should Google listen to if it has to be, if it has to be accountable, if it has to be responsible for all its customers, which means the whole world? Can it just take the stand of US government and US government agencies and consider that as authority, and anything said else by anyone else is medical misinformation? That will be like a technological imperialism, isn't it? I don't think Google wants to do that, because it states that you should not violate your country's medical authorities too. And there we have a contradiction. Even within the US, let me take this example I gave you. 3 days ago, Florida says our advisory is no mRNA vaccines for 18 to 39-year-olds because there are more and more evidence of adverse effects of myocarditis. Neighboring California says no. On the contrary, it encourages you to take. Now, what should a YouTube creator use? Both are official authorities. One is from this state, one is from that state. So who are they going to ban? Or are they going to allow Florida's viewer to view only Florida's and California viewer to view only California-based videos? That will be a little, that's not possible, and it's not the right way to go, isn't it? Similarly, between governments, Sweden did not take this approach of lockdowns at all. Their advisory and the reasons behind their advisory has been completely contrary to what the US and UK and other countries did. So if I, as a YouTube creator, quote a Swedish medical authority, that's also official government authority. But it goes against the American government authority. So which one is right according to YouTube? Which is going to be taken down? There are too many issues here. These are technical issues, I'm saying. But the more important one, and in case some human being in Google and YouTube is actually listening to this, not a chance, but suppose they are, then I would point to the ethical question rather than the technical difficulties. The ethical difficulty of pursuing this line of official community guidelines. And I'll just give the reason in the next 1 minute and end this video. You see, there are forces which are trying to push one type of thought, solution, model, business, and in a democratic society you have that right. Then there is another force which has a contrary opinion. and in specific cases which is trying not to do the things that the first force is trying to do. Now the thing is, these forces aren't equal. One force has the power of money behind it, because their line of action, in their line of action, money can be made. For instance, a cigarette company advertises, spends money to advertise and make people, influence people to take up smoking. And they can do so because there's money to be made if they succeed in influencing. There is a force which looks at health and says, no, cigarette smoking is not good. Yeah, please, we should discourage it. Don't take up cigarette smoking. Now, these people, if their influence were to be successful, they're not making money out of it. They may have to spend money to get their point of view across, but they're not making any money out of it. They are at a disadvantage. And just like this, with the example of vaccinations, people who are hell-bent on giving even newborn babies vaccines, they can afford to spend money to influence you because they are making more money out of it. Whereas the person who questions it and who says, no, let's go for natural immunity, his method, if it succeeds, there's no money to be made at the end of it. So this is, and of course I can give so many other examples about war and peace, which side is making money and which side, if they win also, they will not make money, but they will have a more peaceful world. Once upon a time in the 15th century, Copernicus what was done to him? Was he burnt at the stake? I don't know. But he was punished, for stating a scientific fact and pursuing a scientific line of inquiry. And that was that the earth is not the center of the universe. Okay? But the church was very strong at that time. And the church would have nothing of it. And it banned him from saying it. It banned other people from forwarding a statement, if I can use today's terminology. They banned them from repeating what he said. Now, would a high-tech science-based technology company like Google want to be seen like the church of 15th century? Surely not. Surely not. I think, to take a modern example, let us take the movie Matrix. What would Google like to be? Would it like to be like Agent Smith? Which is what it looks now sometimes. That it's like Agent Smith, doing the work of the machine architect. Rather, shouldn't Google be on the side of the Neos of this world, the YouTube creators who are doing some good work in pursuing a truthful line of inquiry. That is all for now then. Take care, stay healthy, stay happy. Namaskar.